All right, here we are, Fantasy Football Now. I'm Jeff Thidoff. They call me Tito at That Happens on Twitter. He is Chad Rink. Follow him on Twitter at Chad Ocho Rinko. Clever name. We've got a lot to get into today. We are the Fantasy Football Now show on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media. Before I know we're going to do a big quarterback talk tonight, Chad, but let's first talk about a couple of news and a couple of items that came out. The first one, Alvin Kamara for the Saints. He met with Roger Goodell, and Ian Rappaport is speculating that there'll be a suspension coming down. He thinks it's like 6 to 8 games. And so they've got Williams there now from Detroit, the running back who led the NFL in touchdowns last year and rushing touchdowns. So if Kamara's out 6 games or 8 games, if it's more than 4 games, I feel like it affects our rankings of him, right? No matter what, but like if it's 6 to 8 games, it's probably the same either way where we'll rank him on that. But that's a big deal if he's gone that long.
Oh, absolutely. If he's 6 to 8, maybe you could take a late flyer on him, but then you're just wasting a roster spot on him, and then that would just, I think, elevate. I think Jamal Williams more than Kendre Miller, and so Jamal Williams probably ends up more in that 5 to 8 round range, where now he's pretty far down, because he looked good last year, and he's shown even when he was with Green Bay, he can run the ball, and his only competition would be Miller, the rookie. So Williams would be huge. Even 4, I think still take a chance on him. I think that offense can be a little bit better. But if Kamara's 6 to 8, I don't know if I'm even going to take a chance on him.
So, and I think a lot of it, Chad, depends on how you approach your draft. And I've always said this, and it's cocky. I get it. It's very arrogant what I'm going to say. But every league I draft in, I assume I'll be in the playoffs. So I draft thinking that I'll be playing at the end of the season, late into the season. And so I'm probably more likely than some of my other league mates to take a flyer on Kamara, knowing that I'll have him for the playoff run, if that makes sense. If someone's not confident, who struggled in the league, and you've got like returning guys and all that, you might not feel like you can take that chance. But like for me, I'm thinking no matter what, I'll be in the playoffs. If I'll be in the playoffs, if I have him, I can take a flyer on him and draft him probably before other people will, but still get good value on him and have him for the postseason.
Yeah, because if he's 6 to 8, you'll get him like really late. The only thing is, like, if you get to the point where you got to make a roster move, like a waiver wire, and your team's pretty solid, and then Kamara's there, you are the kind of guy though that I know if you don't draft him, do what Jeff does, where about week 2, if he's got a 6-game suspension, week 2, start just having him like, you can throw Kamara in the trade, but you got to do that early though, because if you wait, if he's got a 6-week suspension, a guy's held him for 4, he's probably just going to wait those last 2 weeks. So that's one of those, let someone else maybe draft them and then send a trade out to the guy that has them and just say, hey man, like, especially if he needs somebody, or if he's struggling, hey, throw Kamara, why waste a roster spot for him for 4 weeks? So you may be out of the playoffs by then, just talk it up that way. But yeah, I don't mind it. It's just, because I think once he's back, he's gonna be the guy. Williams will still probably have a role, but they're gonna let Kamara run.
Hey, hope the guy who drafted him is 0-2, and after week 2, you reach out, hey, look, man, you can't.
Yep.
You got to do this. Yeah, let me give you this guy.
Right.
And I'll take him back from you. So, so the suspension hasn't been announced yet. It's speculated that it'll be 6 to 8 weeks. That's what Ian Rappaport is saying. He thinks it'll be 6 to 8 weeks. And so just have that knowledge. And this is another reason, too, why it's better to have your drafts as late as possible as you can do it, as late into August or September, or early part of September as you can do it. And here's another reason why. If you did your draft already, you might have spent a very high draft pick on Cooper Kupp for the Rams. And it still might pan out. I'm not saying it's not going to pan out, but Cooper Kupp has an injury now. It's a hamstring thing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken on that one, Chad. And they haven't said how long it will be, but it looks like he'll be okay right now for the regular season. We'll see if that happens that way. But Kupp is somebody who, before he got hurt last year, he was on a great pace, even with the aging Matthew Stafford on that pathetic Rams team that wasn't nearly as good as it used to be. And he was still, though, he's a PPR machine. And so when you see him go down with an injury, it gets concerning a little bit. If you are in a redraft league, right now today you're drafting, Cooper Kupp is wide receiver what for you?
I still like him as I think the wide receiver 4 now. I think now because hamstrings are weird. Like,
yeah,
those things take forever. You kind of have to just not do anything until it heals, and then you got to take some time to get back used to it. Those and the groins are the ones where it's just like, oh yeah, I feel better, and then you make a move and it just tweaks, and then it just sets you back another month. So I think I flip him and Tyreek Hill. I think I moved Tyreek Hill to the wide receiver 3, and I just kind of flip him where if you were looking to go wide receiver, Kupp was going as the wide receiver 3, and he was going either anywhere from the 3rd to 5th pick overall, and then Tyreek was usually going end of the 1st. I think I still just flip flop him because I think it's not super concerning with hamstring. It's just it could get tweaked at some point, but anyone can tweak a hamstring at any point in the season. So Kupp is still huge in PPR, so I just flip flop him and probably just take him as the wide receiver 4. I still like him better than, I hate to say, but Diggs and Lamb, who are the next kind of guys coming off. So I still say wide receiver 4. He's still a first round pick. I would just, it'd be later first round.
I think that's where I'm at too. I think probably the 3 to 5, probably close to 4 to 5 range on him still. I want to like him, and we're going to talk about quarterbacks now, but you need to, any receiver, you have to consider the quarterback as well, because that could really derail or improve your chances. And we're talking about Cooper Kupp now, and he's got Matthew Stafford throwing him, coming off a major arm injury. And, it's Stafford's, obviously he's not young anymore. He is on the back of behind the back 9. He's on his last few holes of his career, I guess I would say. And so if you draft Kupp, that means you have confidence in Stafford. So let's get into the quarterback deep dive now. And the key on all this, by the way, and this is something Chad and I are going to preach throughout all these podcasts we do leading into the season. You've got to really know your rules, because that changes things dramatically when you draft a quarterback. If it's traditional league, which is like 4 points passing touchdown and 1 point for every 25 yards passing, if it's that what you're doing, it's fine. But that has a different value on quarterbacks than if it's a 6 point passing touchdown. Also, dramatic difference if it's a super flex, we can start a quarterback in the flex position. It changes how you draft so much. So Chad and I are going to talk now about traditional leagues, and with the 4 point passing touchdown, how we're going to rank them in their tiers. But understand, and look, you can follow, I told you on Twitter, I'm at That Happens. He is at Chad Ochorinco. And if you have questions about your league rules and how they set up, because I know everyone's got different rules also about fumbles, interceptions. Sometimes interceptions are penalized more, or if it's an interception for a touchdown, those things all play into this. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. But let's just talk standard league, where it's 4 points for a passing touchdown, -2 for an interception, 25 yards per passing point, or extra point, I guess, on that. And then obviously rushing touchdowns are still 6. Receiving touchdowns don't come into play unless you've got Nick Foles or Brady, I guess, right? Any other quarterbacks catching passes for touchdown? That's probably it, right?
That would be it, yeah, I would think.
Okay. All right. So let's go through the tiers now on these things. And depending how you want to do it, Chad, it's where you're going to draft a quarterback. It usually depends. I don't think quarterback, I would not take quarterback typically until at the earliest round 4 for me. How about you?
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I really would like to wait to 5. But there is something to be said about getting it one of those the first 3 studs we're going to talk about, because then you don't even have to really worry about your quarterback position. And in there, we'll talk a little bit about Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts here, but those guys can kind of give you a kind of huge advantage week in, week out, because they're going to probably be a top 5 most weeks.
Right. So if you're watching this now, do a drum roll on your own. And although Chad kind of just now gave you the tease on that, Chad, you're our top tier, right? Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. And I know it's one tier, but of that tier, Mahomes is the best one of the bunch, most reliable one of the bunch, right?
He is, but it's interesting. I heard someone say that last year, Mahomes was a top 3 QB 26.5% of the time. Josh Allen was a top 3 quarterback 48.6% of the time. So twice as many times last year, Josh Allen was a top 3 quarterback, which that shocked me. And this year, I think it could be similar. Allen's just a different breed. I think of those 3, obviously Mahomes, I think, is the best passer of the 3. And I think Hurts might be the best rusher, but I think Allen gives you the best combination of both. Because I think Hurts will struggle a lot of times throwing for 300 yards. Especially, I think that team's going to be up so much all the time. They're just going to kind of just pound the ball. So he's probably going to mostly be like a 248, 270, 280 guy. I think Mahomes, he's going to be 300 most weeks, but he doesn't give you on the ground, where I think Allen can give you 380 and then probably a rushing touchdown half the year. So Mahomes is going 1 almost in every draft, and then it's usually those 2 are going back to back. So you're looking at Mahomes' ADP is 21, Hurts is 25, 26, and then Allen is 27, 28. So they're all, once one goes off, they all go off right away. So you're looking end of the second, but most of the time these guys are all going off in the 3rd round, unless it's a 12 team, and then usually Mahomes slips into the back of the second.
And that's what's true, the home. So you look at like Josh Allen, they had the flare up at the end of the year with Stephon Diggs in the postseason, when it was the yelling situation, all that. And then Diggs upset about something away from camp, maybe not. We don't know what the whole story was on that. And you look at, Buffalo, will they continue to throw as much to Diggs? Will they run the ball more? Will James Cook be a big factor in the passing game? Jalen Hurts now, look, rushing quarterbacks, what typically happens with quarterbacks that do well with running, where they get the most of their value, it's not a long shelf life as far as running goes. They still might be great passing wise. You saw, so it's like, Michael Vick was great as a runner, but then also had to, like, he stopped running as much at some point. And you wonder if that'll happen with Jalen Hurts. You got DeAndre Swift there now. You've got Rashad Penny there now. Will they try to curtail his running? Same thing with Josh Allen. Will they try to curtail his running at all? So for me, like, Mahomes is one. It's really a toss-up for me between Hurts and Allen. I'm not sure which way to go. I think if I were faced with, like, okay, I've got to take a quarterback right now, and I'm going to take Hurts or Allen, I think I'd lean Hurts. If I was forced to take one of the 2, I think Hurts is where I go.
Yeah, my love of Hurts, because I remember.
Don't do it.
I'm going there.
Don't do it.
I'm going there.
Fine, go ahead.
We were in a keeper league, keep a quarterback, and you're like, at the end of the season, it was after Hurts' first year, and so it was like a couple years ago, and you're like, hey, do you want a quarterback? So I got my quarterback. You're like, who? I'm like, Jalen Hurts, and my quote was, he's a better Lamar Jackson, and then you made fun of me, and then he went off.
I did.
So
I
love Jalen Hurts. I lucked out on that one. But I like Hurts better than Allen, I think, just for the fact that I think the Eagles are just going to score a ton of points this year. Yeah. And I'm still kind of like, the Bills, something about the Bills this year, I'm like,
I know.
It's just weird. I think once Dable left, they're not the same team.
Yeah.
And, Diggs having a thing, and then they don't really have that second guy. So I think even with Steichen gone, I think they're not going to run Hurts as much. But I think he could end up throwing a lot more touchdown passes, just because I think they could get up like 20, 25, 31 points in the first half. And he can have 3 touchdowns, because A.J. Brown is so good, and you got Smith there. So I'm with you. I think I would take Hurts over Allen. But I'm like you. Like, I as much as I'd like to have him, like, if one of those, if I had a chance to get that one of those guys in the 4th, I would jump all over it.
Sure. But
I'm not spending a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a quarterback.
Neither am I. Yeah, and you're right about the Hurts thing too. If you look at the weapons, he's got better weapons than Allen. He does. He has better weapons. They both play outdoors most of the time. They both have crappy weather at the end of the season. All that's true. Yes. They both have tough divisions. Yes. That's all true. Now, all that being said, though, Hurts has better weapons, and that's what I like about him also. All right, let's go to tier 2 now. You've got who do you think is tier 2 as far as quarterbacks go in this one?
I think you got 3 again. You've got Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and I think Justin Fields. Fields is the one I could see. I could move him down a tier.
Right.
I think his legs are just too hard to ignore. And those are the next three that are going off the board. So Jackson's ADP is 35, Burrow's 44, and Fields is right around 50. So it's
Right.
kind of funny because the first three go off kind of like real quick, boom, 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 and a second, third. And then it's usually almost like an entire round later than the next three kind of come off pretty quick.
When it comes to Jackson, like the concern there is he keeps missing ends of season with injuries. That happens with him. And they've got a new offensive coordinator there. They're going to throw the ball more, they say. They do have a lot of flashy name weapons, but you know, OBJ there coming off, I don't know, 9 ACL, whatever, all the injuries he's had, whatever it's been. And you got Zay Flowers there, Rashad Bateman there as well. You got guys, and you got obviously Andrews at the tight end position. You got 14 running backs you can throw to.
Yep.
So there's a lot of weapons there for Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, but the injury is the concern there and what's going to happen with him. Obviously, Burrow, look, the Bengals, I know Burrow just had a calf injury after having his calf injured because he had the sleeve on it anyway. And then you got Fields with the running thing. Out of those three, okay, Jackson, Burrow, I'm at a spot where I've committed to take the quarterback in a standard league. Jackson, Burrow, Fields. I think I go Burrow first, probably Jackson second, Fields 3. How about you?
It's kind of weird because I don't really want any of these guys. I'd rather have I just don't kind of want any of these guys because I know Burrow's the most consistent, and Burrow he'll probably, if any of them going to, you say, hey, only one of these guys is going to make it the entire year, I would say Burrow, just because he doesn't run enough, and he's got the best weapons. It's not even close. Yeah. So, but it just the rushing upside, the other two just can kind of put them up. So Burrow is probably the safest, most consistent. I didn't really like Lamar Jackson, but is it Mankin the OC now, or I can't I kind of like his offense when he's been the OC. That team's done pretty well moving the ball wherever he's been. So, but I'm a Bears fan, so I got to say Justin. If I was going to draft them, I would say Justin. I would go Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, and I put Burrow last. But I love rushing quarterbacks. So that's tell you.
Let me ask you this.
Okay, go ahead.
When it comes to Fields, do you think they have added anybody that would discourage Fields from running? I don't think so.
No, and the same coaching staff and stuff like that. The only thing, because I know a lot of people are kind of looking at, when Josh Allen, he got Stephon Diggs, he went off.
Right.
Look at Jalen Hurts, he got AJ Brown, he went off. And now they're like, okay, you gave DJ Moore to Fields, he should go off. The only problem is I think Allen and Hurts are better than Fields, and I think that both their teams were better when they added that. Yeah. So, but I think people, and you and I have watched a lot of Justin Fields being here in Columbus. Sure. So I think people are too hard on him for his passing. He's a good passer. And I think a lot of it too, like they had I think they had 7 or 8 games last year they had was within one score. And I watched a lot of the Bears games, and there were some plays that he was making and the other guys didn't make it. So let's say you add 4 wins to that team, I don't think he's getting as much shade as he did. So I think of those guys, he's bigger than Jackson. He's younger. And I think he's a little bit more electric. So I would take Fields just on the chance that offense, moves the ball. I think they were they had the top 5 or top 10 touchdowns last year scored as a team. So, and they look pretty good at the end of the year. So I would take a chance on Fields over the other two.
You remember the SNL episode with Peyton Manning where he's out there with the kid and throwing balls at them, the back of the head and all that?
It's tremendous. Yes.
Tremendous, yes. So if you haven't done it, by the way, Google it, look at it, Peyton Manning with the commercial. And when I think about Justin Fields, that's what I think about him last year. Like Justin Fields, no matter how good of a quarterback he was throwing to little kids, hitting the back of the head. So he might be, he could be a great passer, but we wouldn't have known it last year. You saw how many times Peyton Manning threw at the kids and they couldn't catch it. It's just that's the way it was because they weren't. Doesn't mean Peyton Manning wasn't a great quarterback. It means the receivers sucked, and that's what happened with Justin Fields last year.
Yeah, and DJ Moore is going to help. DJ Moore is a wide receiver one. He is a really good wide receiver. I think Cole Kmet is a pretty solid tight end, and they've got a pretty good rapport. And then you throw, Mooney coming back. He had a pretty good rapport. I think when they made the move for Claypool, I was kind of excited because I thought, hey, Claypool had a good rookie year. And now there's problems. And that does not look like it's going to pan out well, especially having to give up the first pick of the second round for him. But I think, and that defense, though, too, I think the defense is better, but it's not great. So I think they're going to have to play catch up a lot as well, which always helps quarterbacks.
Yes.
Especially even if they throw a pick or two, like sometimes they get those garbage that last drive when they're down by 2 scores and the defense is just letting them throw the ball. And so they can pad some stats that way too. So that's why I think I like Fields ahead of those two guys. But where these guys are getting drafted, I really don't want any of them.
And you're right. The thing about the scores, you're right. Like sometimes the desperate quarterback is a good pick because not only will he pass the ball, he's going to run the ball a lot too. He's going to try to do everything he can to get points and yards and all that, which works out really well. Okay, let's go to tier 3 now. We've gone through Mahomes, Allen Hurts, Jackson, Burrow, Fields. Let's go tier 3. Chad, what do you think tier 3 is?
And tier 3 is exactly why I don't want any of the guys ahead of me. So I only have 2 guys in this tier because it seems like I think those first 8 guys, you want one of them if you can.
Yeah.
And so tier 3 is Justin Herbert and it's Trevor Lawrence. And you can get those guys. Those guys are usually getting drafted. Herbert is like 55, Lawrence is 66. So you can get those guys 5th, 6th round. Sometimes Lawrence could get to the 7th. So that's why I don't want any of the other guys ahead of him because I like both those guys. I think Herbert, he's not a running quarterback, but he can get you 40 yards a game, sometimes just scrambling out. And I think he's probably one of the best throwers of the football in the league. So I like him. That offense, Kellen Moore is now the offensive coordinator there, I believe. And so
from Dallas, yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he's going to probably help revitalize that offense, and I think he can scheme some stuff pretty well. And then I like Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence showed some stuff last year. Lawrence can run a little bit. Calvin Ridley helps him out, and that division is bad. So I think, but those are the 8 guys that if you try to get one of those guys, because after that, the next tier I would be okay with, but after that, it's kind of yucky.
So when you talk about Herbert Lawrence, I wonder if Herbert spent all this time on the Bengals and Burrow on the Chargers, would either team's destinies be different? Because I love Joe Burrow. I love the story of Joe Burrow. Buckeye, transfers out, goes to LSU, national champion, cigars, all that kind of stuff, overcomes injuries. I love the Joe Burrow story. I think Herbert's a better quarterback. You could do the same thing with like Marino and Elway back then. If Marino is in a different situation than Elway, if they switched it around, what will the franchises look like? So I do like Herbert a lot. And he has good weapons, but they aren't always on the field, which is a problem. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, both had injuries. You've also, let's be honest, Herbert's had crappy coaching for him. It's weird coaching for him, whereas Burrow, I think, has had better coaching. And I like Lawrence also. The Calvin Ridley thing, I don't think you can understate how important that is to add Calvin Ridley to that offense. Ridley missed a year and a half, whatever it was total. And look, receivers don't age the same way running backs age. You take a running back out of the game for a year and a half, he's going to struggle. Ridley's not going to struggle. I think Ridley's going to have a monster year. I'm going to target him. And my God, I'm saying this to you, and I've got a draft with you in the league. I'm telling you right now, I love Calvin Ridley.
I do too. And and again, don't put a whole bunch of stock in this OTA training camp videos, because every video comes out and then that guy, the Pickens catch was ridiculous, but don't go drafting him in the 3rd round now just because he made some amazing catch. But Ridley, they're showing it. And then I think it was Was it Flowers? I think
Zay
Flowers.
Flowers.
Right. Yeah. Because is he there? Or is he's not in
Zay Flowers of Baltimore.
Okay, who's the rookie they got then?
I think Christian Kirk made a catch in Jacksonville, I think.
It might have been Kirk. It was somebody. Might have been. They may have showed two different things. Just they might have been practicing together. But I thought it was Zay Flowers runs this route, and he's supposed to be fast, and then Ridley runs this route and like looked 10 times faster than the guy that ran it before him. So he looked good. And at quarterback, a quarterback's got to have a good wide receiver one.
Right. Yeah.
I think to really help him out, which is why I think, all those years in Tampa and stuff, all those quarterbacks were good because you just throw it up to Mike Evans and he'd be out. So, but yeah, I think Jacksonville, I think they, getting Urban out of there, they just look like a different organization. Now you got, Lawrence's third year and that kind of thing. And so, I like both those guys better. And that's those two are the two I'm targeting in drafts. Are those?
I like those guys. You're right. You can get those guys for better high than the first 6 guys we mentioned.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And unless
way,
one of those guys happens to fall, but
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're getting better value down there. It's like and so you can watch these videos and then you see great catch. You saw George Pickens make a great catch the other day for the Steelers and look good and toss the ball back to the DB and got all hyped up. Look, Tuffy Rhodes was the same way for the Cubs that one opening day when he hit 3 home runs or whatever, right? You don't go out and draft Tuffy Rhodes because of that for the Cubs. I got personal there with you. Let's go to tier 4 now, Chad. What do you have in tier 4 there?
I think tier 4 could be the one where if you wait on quarterbacks and you get the right guy, one of these guys could be a league winner. And there's one like it's Watson, it's Tua, and it's Dak. I think those 3 have shown that they can put up fantasy numbers in the past. They're all kind of in like weird positions where Watson, this will be his first full year with Cleveland.
Right.
Tua's got all the weapons. And then Dak just has the interception problems. And I don't know if part of it's because of Mike McCarthy or what. And now he's got a new offensive coordinator. So like he's got weapons too. So I think if one of these guys could be a league winner. And the weird part is like Tua's going off as like the QB. I think he's usually the QB 10 coming off the board, 10 or 11, which is weird because like math, like if you do the math, if he's got Tyreek Hill that's coming off as wide receiver 4, Jalen Waddle coming off as wide receiver 11. So you're telling me a quarterback's got 2 top 12 receivers in everyone's draft, but then the quarterback you're drafting like 10th or 11th, like the numbers don't match up. Because if Waddle and Hill both end up top 10 receivers, which they could, Tua's got to be a top 8 quarterback. So I think he's the one. I like the most just because he's got great weapons. And then I think I go Watson. Even though Chubb's there, I think Watson's got some decent weapons. And Watson, he's shown in the past, like, before he got all goofy, like he put up some good fantasy seasons. And I think Dak's the one I'm just kind of out on, even though he's shown he could put up huge numbers too.
You should be the PR guy for Watson because you just said he got all goofy, which is the most complimentary way anyone to talk about what Deshaun Watson did. But when it comes to these guys, though, like Tua scares me.
My kids watch this. My kids watch this. I can't.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We'll leave it at that. Then we're not going deeper. But with Tua,
and maybe my mom.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Rink. What scares me about Tua though is like one hit. If he's your QB1, if you wait and load up your team elsewhere and take Tua as your QB1, he's one hit away from like being done. And I know anybody is, but Watson and Dak don't have the injury history that Tua has. And, we have that image of Tua last year on the field, kind of tensing up a little bit, and we don't have that video of Deshaun or of Dak. And so I agree with you. Tua is a lottery ticket, but that's exactly what he is. He's a lottery ticket. He was so good last year before the injury started mounting for him. And I do love great weapons. You know what I mean? And a chance to really be a special quarterback this year, but it's all like one play could change your fantasy season. So if you take a chance on him, if you wait to take a QB and grab him, you better grab another QB really quickly after that, though, to just give yourself insurance.
Yep. Yeah, my brother and I were just talking about.
All right, let's go to the next one. But
well, I just talked about yesterday. Like he's talking about that image of Tua. That's why, and you hit it on the head. Like if you're getting Tua, you got to grab probably one of these next guys, or at least one of these two next guys, pretty quick.
All right, let's go tier 5, Chad. Who do you got there?
So this is kind of like where I think you'd be okay with, but you're not confident. But the rest of your team, if they all pan out, you should be fine because you waited forever on quarterback. So it's Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, and then surprisingly, Anthony Richardson's been sliding up the draft board, which his ADP is 104. So that's how I tiered these guys as where their ADP were, and I kind of just grouped them together. So
sure.
Of this group, I like Daniel Jones the best, which on the year he was drafted, if you'd have told future Chad, hey, you'll be touting Daniel Jones on a fantasy podcast, right. Like you are crazy, because I never thought he was good, but I think Dable there helps. I don't think he's going to rush for 700 yards again this year. I think that was a little bit fluky, but he can get out and move. They added some weapons. They're not great, but of those guys, I think he has the best upside. And then I would go Cousins, just because of Justin Jefferson. I kind of Geno could be sneaky good.
God,
like they had a picture.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they had a picture on Twitter. It was just like the three receivers standing there in the beautiful throwback Seahawks jerseys, and I was like, wow. I mean, their running backs are kind of injured right now, so they could be airing it out. And Geno did not look bad last year, and I don't think you can be bad having those three guys to throw to.
When I looked at this tier here, like for me, the guy I don't want to have to be stuck with now, and again, it depends if it's the number 1 and number 2 quarterback for you. It depends on where it's at in your depth chart on your team. But if I'm looking at who I want as my number 1, let's say I've now waited and whiffed on all those guys we just mentioned. I think I'd want Cousins first. Look, I agree. Cousins, I know he is Mr. Average, but you've still got Justin Jefferson there, and now you've got a Jordan Addison there. I know Thielen's gone, but you got Jordan Addison there still. And so I think Cousins first, probably Geno second for me because of their weapons, because it just seems like Pete Carroll might be the West Coast version of Bill Belichick. Like if somebody just can work with the quarterback that's there and the weapons they have, you're right. JSN's their third best receiver. Jackson Njigba is a great third receiver to have. And then, so I think I would go Cousins, probably Geno. I think then I might go Daniel Jones and finally Richardson as my number 1. As my number 2, I might put Richardson in front of Daniel Jones then, just because of his upside.
Oh, I agree. I think you only should draft Anthony Richardson in a redraft league as your number 2. I think he's a great number 2 because down the stretch, yeah. But I'm telling you, like now I'm thinking about it. Your ranking makes sense for this tier. For one thing, if you're waiting till like what is this, round 10, like 9,
yeah,
is it? I think it's around 10. It's probably around 10 and 11. The rest of your team should be so solid that Cousins just makes sense because like he's gonna be pretty consistent, and that's all you're really gonna ask for your quarterbacks. Like, dude, don't just drop a deuce and have like a 2-point week, and Cousins is not going to do that. He's never like if you get a consistent 10 to 15 out of Cousins and the rest of your team is solid, that's all you need.
And that feels like the speech that the head coach of any team Kirk Cousins ever been on has told him, hey, just don't drop a deuce. You know what I mean? Just be okay. We got a lot of guys around you. They can do well. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to tier 6 now. The 6th tier on this. How many guys you got here?
It's 3, and that's just because how their ADP is. So it's Rodgers, it's Goff, and it's Russell Wilson. So of this tier, like, you know, I think Rodgers is. It's going to be weird. He's going to probably be asked. He's going to be the greatest game manager in the history of football, because I think that's what they're going to ask him to do. And he's so accurate. He's so good. Like he's not going to be asked to throw a ton. Plus, I don't think they have much outside of Garrett Wilson. So that everyone's talking about, oh yeah, like how great the Jets are. I'm like, they have a great defense. They have a good run game. They got Aaron Rodgers, and they got one good receiver, and that's it. So I think he's going to be a little bit like he was last year. So I'm kind of out on Rodgers. I like Goff just because I think that offense is going to be good again. And Russ is the wild card, because we know how good Russ can be. He was weird last year, and Hackett was just awful. And then the second half of the year, they actually started moving the ball pretty well. And now Sean Payton's there. So I think Payton is going to be good for the Broncos. And really, if you look at those three teams, like the Jets, the Lions, and the Broncos, you could argue that the Broncos have the best weapons there. I mean, the Lions could be a close second, but like I don't know if I could trust Russ. Like again, these guys are more. I think I would rather have one of these guys as my one than the tier ahead of me, though. Now that I think about it,
yeah, you're probably right about that, and. The Rodgers thing with the Jets, they've got all the Packers retreads in there also, and then obviously Garrett Wilson. And yeah, I think Rodgers will have better numbers than last year, only because I think he cares more. And that's so stupid to say, but I think he cares more now. He took less money. He gave money back to the Jets, which he would never do in Green Bay, to build around him, which is amazing on that. The Goff thing, Goff has been interesting just because of, everyone figured he was washed after he was done with the Rams, and he has played well with Detroit. The Amon St. Brown, a very underrated wide receiver, I think, and the way they finished last year was great. And then with Russell Wilson, if you believe in Sean Payton, you believe in Russell Wilson. That's what it all boils down to, because we have the debate all the time about, did Brady make Belichick or did Belichick make Brady? We can do the same thing with Seattle. Did Pete Carroll make Russell Wilson, or did Russell Wilson make Pete Carroll? And that's where that lies right now, because Russell Wilson's first season without Pete Carroll, first season was bad. And you could say it's Hackett or whatever, or maybe it's Wilson. I'm not sure on that. Out of those three, I think if I had to pick one to be my number one, I would want Goff. If I had to pick one to be my number two, I'd want Rodgers.
So I think I'd go Goff one also with this tier, just because you got to remember Jameson Williams is going to be coming back, and he's already looking good in camp.
6 games, right?
I think I would. Yeah, 6 games. And then I think I would go, and this isn't just because I'm a Bears fan and I hate Rodgers, but I think I would go Russ second, just because I think he can put up better numbers if you just figure everything goes well. I think Russ can put up bigger numbers there than I think Rodgers is gonna have to.
I know why you said that too.
Why is that?
You've got daddy issues. Okay, let's go to the next tier. The next tier now, we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel. These guys absolutely have for your number twos or number threes or whatever, but who do you have in the next tier?
Yeah, and this is pretty much it. It's Carr, Kyler Murray, Stafford, your boy Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, and then Brock Purdy. So your Steelers. So these are just the guys. I think the last, this is kind of if you're drafting two. This is going to be if you're drafting two, because you don't want any of these guys as a number one.
Right.
And if you're taking one of these guys as your number one, then you just did the draft horribly, because did you just wait this long for a quarterback?
Yeah.
So these are all number two quarterbacks. And honestly, outside of Stafford, I wouldn't mind any of these guys as a number two. I think they all have value and they can put up solid numbers. Murray's the only one I'm kind of not sure about, but he's really the only one that can run out of the guys. And then Love's got question marks just because he's starting and you don't really know what you're going to get.
It's not I think Murray's got question marks because of his injury history and his size. I think Stafford has question marks because of his injuries lately as well. Purdy injuries. With with Love, it's not really question marks about, because it's just unknown. You know what I mean? It's like incomplete. It's not a D or a C or an F or whatever. It is just incomplete because we have no idea what he's got out there. He's got young receivers that could be good. He's got running backs that are good, but we're not sure what they're going to do there. Love is more of a lottery ticket. Love, I think, out of all these guys, highest ceiling might be Pickett, followed by Carr, and then Love, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because I think Pickett's got some good talent around him, and the Steelers just know how to manage and coach.
Sure.
And then Purdy too, just because that they are low. They talk about a good coach and a loaded team.
Yeah.
And he looked really good at the end of last year. And then Carr.
Amazing.
Carr's just, Carr's not great. He's like he's very similar to Cousins in a way where he's going to get the job done. He's not flashy, but he's not going to hurt you too bad. Especially if Michael Thomas can get back to what he was, because then you have Thomas and Olave.
Right.
The only problem with Carr is, are they still going to use Taysom Hill at quarterback? So, that's the only issue.
I feel like that Carr's a different tier than the other guys, the other quarterbacks they've had in the past. They've used Taysom Hill. Carr's better than them. And you're right. Michael Thomas, though, if he's healthy, and I feel like he's being motivated because he's on a 1-year contract that's renegotiated to where he wants to be a free agent next year and make a lot more money. So I feel like Thomas is more likely to play now with slight injuries than he would have been a couple years ago.
Yeah, I agree, because I think he thinks his team's a lot better, got a better quarterback, Olave second year. And I think they may have to throw the ball a lot early, especially if Kamara misses time, to kind of circle back around to where we started.
There's a lot of targets that are gone there, right?
Yeah, there are. So it's just one of those things where it's got to go somewhere, because I don't think Williams or Miller are the pass catching back that Kamara is. So, we'll get the tight ends at some point. Their tight ends, I think, could be sneaky as well. But the main thing with quarterback is go in kind of with quarterback's the one position I think you kind of go in with a plan, because if you want one of those top three, then you better take them second, third. You got to know where you're drafting, and you got to take them, second, third round. And then you got to figure out with those the next five, because I think those next five are all kind of similar. I think it's going to be how your team is after 4 rounds. And because I think Jackson could fall to 5th, but you just figure out, do I want to go quarterback, or do I want this receiver, this running back kind of deal? So right. I think if you're going 0 RB, then the Jackson, Burrow, Fields, Herbert, Lawrence are the guys you're looking at, especially the first 3, because you can get those guys in the 4th, 5th round. And then you can just get, if you go, 3 receivers, grab a quarterback, grab another receiver, and then you can start getting running backs out. So I think quarterbacks is the one you got to figure out what your strategy is. And you got to kind of go on where I want to draft my quarterback. And again, be able to change on a dime, because if Hurts somehow fell, especially if you're at the end of the 3rd, then I have no problem taking Hurts at the 3-4 turn or something like that. So but that's the one position I think you can kind of figure out where you want to go, who you want, and then just figure out their ADP and draft them accordingly.
So he, again, at Chad Ochorinco on Twitter, X is what we're calling it now. I am at Fit Happens. And this is the Faithful Now podcast, powered by, it's on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media. And by the way, if you want help with your draft, reach out to one of us. If you have questions, we're happy to answer them for you. Also, Fantasy Draft Proxies, and Proxies is Proxies. FantasyDraftProxies.com. It's another site you can go to and get assistance for your draft. But Chad, we'll do it again here real soon. And we've got wide receivers, tight ends, more draft strategies to talk about. Injuries will keep happening. Thursday night is the first game of the NFL preseason, and it doesn't matter, but it'll be fun to watch. Jets and Browns. What Kellen Mond and who's the guy from UCLA, the other quarterback? Dorian.
Dory, yeah, I may watch it just for him. I like him. He's like, again, he's a running quarterback, so why would I not like him? But just to see him, to see what he's actually, he looked pretty good at UCLA. I mean, that's the only reason I would watch it. But do not put any fantasy stock in what happened. It happens in this game.
If you're gonna do that, take Tuffy Roads. All right, Chad. Thanks for your help, buddy. Today this was great. We will we'll do this again real soon. This has been Fantasy Football Now on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media.